actually second and a half, but we don't count that first half year. Last year was an amazing year, and our goal is to make this year even better. We're very excited. We didn't know we were going to pack out the house. Now that we have the split, we have less students. And so it is very nice to look out and see all of you here. That means that you're ready to make your high school career successful. And we're very excited about that. I'm not going to talk that long, but I do want to welcome all of the freshmen and the parents. Our goal is to make a partnership with you. The next 4 years, we're going to have your kids, and our goal is to get them ready for the next step. So we have a lot of work to do. Every day on our announcements, we have the kids, our student council does our announcements, and they say, make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. And I'm going to tell you tonight, make it a great year or not, the choice is yours. We're going to give you everything you need to have a great year, but you have to take advantage of it. So I'm going to introduce our staff, and then we're going to get the ball rolling. So our 9th grade assistant principal is new to us, Mr. Matthew Best. Our 10th grade assistant principal, and I know they're still out there welcoming people. Dr. Lopez, are you in here? Okay, he's still outside. 11th grade assistant principal is Miss Sherry Hardy. She's over on the side. And our senior assistant principal is Jennifer Griffin. She's out there. And then we get to our counselors, and counselors are really going to give you a lot of information today on what you need to do to be successful. Dana Ellis is our lead counselor, and she is also your counselor. And then the next counselors, we have them divided, it's 10th through 12th, they're divided by alpha, and so we have Connie Mathis, yes, they're not in order. Connie Mathis is H through O, she's over on our right. And Melanie Tullis is A through G. Over there as well. And Laureen Thompson is our alphabet with P through Z. And just walking in, Stacy LeBrier is our college and career coordinator, and she will be very important to you, probably your junior year, some of you your sophomore year, but don't wait, start early. Guys, we have plenty of seats. Come on in, you might have to come to the front, but we're going to be in here for a little while, so you want to sit down, don't stand up.
If you're on the end, if you can move to the middle so they can see that there are seats.
Lots and lots of seats still open. Okay, and while we're getting everybody seated, I'm going to go ahead and transition. But again, thank you so much for coming out. This is the first step to success at Montgomery High School, so thank you for coming.
All right, as you get settled, let me just say welcome. And Mr. Best, what class is this? This is going to be the graduating class of what?
23.
2023. The class of 2023 is in the auditorium. Come on. We want you to be excited. This is an exciting time for you. And so in just a few minutes, we're going to let our students go and experience some more excitement. But I do have a little bit of information to go over before we get to that point. As Ms. Hendricks said, Ms. LeBrier, College and Career Center, that's one of my slides up here because it becomes very important. Junior year for sure, sophomore year for some of you, senior year for sure. So she's got a lot of great information She puts out a lot of stuff on her website, so we want to make you aware of that right off the bat. She also does some coffee chats with parents. That's in your folder, so in your handout right now, you're going to find this information. So you'll have some contact information, some different information from Ms. LeBrier and the College and Career Center. So she has Small Town Big Dreams is kind of the theme for this year. She does have a Twitter, and again, that's information should be in that handout. And then also she has a Remind. Some of you who may have already signed up for a scholarship Remind will kind of have to redo that through the Bloom Scholarship. So this information we will put on our website, on the on the Counselor's Corner website, and we will also send this information out, which Mr. Bess will talk about that in a few minutes. All right, I'm going to give it just a minute longer to get some more people settled. Again, if you're sitting on the end and have an empty seat, if you can shift a little bit, scoot in, so I kind of get some. I've got a few people standing back there. Guys, can y'all, are those seats safe? Okay, so I've got 3 seats up here in the front, and I've got 2 over here. Guys, if y'all could shift over, yeah, I've got like 10 seats up here on this side over here, guys. I've got about 10 seats. I have 7, and then if y'all don't mind scooting over a little bit, that will allow for about 5 or 6 more. Right here, up here in the front on this side, guys, I've got about a few more seats available. We also have some up in the second level up there as well. All right, so before I go over some important first day procedures, guys, hey, right off the bat, Ms. Hendricks, I'm fired up about this turnout tonight. Let's just clap that up real quick. It makes our jobs that much more exciting to see the team effort that you're already willing to do, because we're all in this together. All right, so first day procedure. Students, listen up, because this message is for you. Early, first day. You're going to come to the main cafeteria, and you're going to pick up a green schedule. Every student has to have a green schedule to get to their classes. You're going to keep that green schedule all day long because every teacher is going to check to make sure you're in the right spot. Okay? So even though you're getting a schedule tonight, you will get another one first morning. Okay? So every student will report to the cafeteria and get their green schedule. All right? Also, first day, obviously, you may have some important information that you need to take home, so just kind of be aware of that and listen to the announcements. And just know that we're here to help you. So if you get lost, you're not lost. Okay? Find a teacher, find an administrator, and we will help you find your place. We don't want anyone to be stressed out because we are here for you. So just make sure that you ask questions because we're here to support you through the transition to high school. All right, so green schedule. This is what it's going to look like, except it's going to be green. And so I want to point out a few things for you to kind of show you how to read this. First is you should have 8 periods in your day. Okay? You should see 1 through 8 on your schedule. Second, you should see the title of the classes, of those classes 1 through 8. And then you should see the room numbers. Okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about the room numbers. So if you see an E, that's standing for East Campus. Guys, that's the campus area over there on what we call the east side. Most of the time, that's going to be your elective classes. Go ahead, Mr. Bess. Give them your hint about the E.
Okay, for anyone directionally challenged, and some of us just are, I'm married to one, E stands for East, but to help you remember, that's where all the electives are. So E is for electives, and I don't have a great one for W.
For W, okay.
It's just West. So, but E is all the predominance of all of our elective classes. So, whenever you see E, That's way over here on the East Campus, where it used to be the freshman 9th grade campus. Now all of your core classes are going to be on West Campus, which is more main campus over on this side where you're at right now.
That's right. And then if you see an H, that's going to be your language class, like Spanish area. And that's the breezeway over there. So our H hall, where all the windows are, that's the H hall. So it basically sits in between West and East, okay? So that pretty much gets you a general idea. And of course, you're going to be able to walk the building here in a few minutes and really get a feel for what that looks like, but we kind of wanted to go over that. And then, of course, you have your teacher's name there. All right, so schedule concerns. If, when you get your schedule just a little bit, you see that you do not have a second period, for example, that would definitely be something that you need to come find me and talk about tonight, right? And so, if you're missing a class or missing a period, that's an issue. If you have a course that you've already taken, so maybe you took Algebra 1 in junior high in 8th grade, and we accidentally put you in Algebra 1 again, please come find us, and let's talk about that. And then, obviously, if we have the wrong course level. Doesn't happen a lot, but it may happen every once in a while. So if you accidentally see English 2 and it's supposed to be English 1, guys, that's just a data entry situation, a number deal, and so it does happen sometimes. But obviously, we would need to know that. If you are going to make a schedule change request because of one of those three main reasons predominantly, you're going to come to E132, that's E132, so on the East Campus, and we will talk you through some possibilities if the schedule change is warranted and those kind of things. We don't do a lot of schedule changes, and we shouldn't for freshmen, and here's why. When we built the master schedule, we run the percentages and we accept how everything falls out. 94% of my freshmen scheduled with what they originally requested from 8th grade. Okay, that's huge. That's a great number. That's the highest I've ever gotten in that process. That means I only had to hand correct 22 schedules. So I should not see a lot of 9th graders down in E132 because I really maybe only should see about 22 of those if they didn't like their alternate that I put in, and or we made a mistake like the ones that I just visited about, okay? But most of you, 94% of you, what you picked as your top 8 when you entered it in 8th grade, that's scheduled for you. So that's really good. If for some reason you do have a concern, like you want to drop an advanced class to get to a level class, come see us at E132. We definitely will entertain that conversation. If you're asking to be bumped up from level to advanced, we'll have to check the numbers on that because again, we build that based on what you requested. So I can't guarantee that, but we'll have that conversation. So again, we'll be in E132 if you have questions about that. All right. Are we excited?
Are we excited? Let's go! Y'all excited for this report?
All right, guys. The now what sign is basically telling me that it's time for all the students in the house to stand up, and you're going to go to the gym for some really exciting information. So students, you are now asked to go to the gym.
Parents, please stay. I'm sorry you are not invited to the assembly in the gym. Parents, you have to stay in the auditorium. Yes, and parents, if you're standing and you did not have a seat, please come in once the students clear out. As anyone standing, still waiting for a seat, we have a lot up top and a few down here at the bottom. Feel free to come in and take a seat. We're going to get started now.
All right, here we go, parents. Now is all the fun stuff.
All right, parents, this is for you. I'm not going to make y'all do a lot of cheers and act excited and any of that stuff. They're going to do it in the gym. But a lot of this is relevant to you. It's going to be helpful. So the first thing we're going to talk about is student online registration. This is something that if you're not new to the district, you've had to do this every year. You have to log in and you have to register every single year. If you have not, once we get out of here this evening, before your child can, or your student can get their schedule, you'll have to go to room E134 and get that registration process complete. And one of the most important components of that is there is going to be an email associated with your parent portal account. And inside whatever email that you have associated in that parent portal account, that has to match your login email. Okay, so it's important to remember that. Otherwise, you're going to have to either start all over, or we're going to have to delay your registration process until someone gets to work tomorrow that has more authority in the parent portal than I. So, anyhow, just be mindful of that. And again, if you have not completed registration, you can do so after we exit from the auditorium, and that'll be in E134. All right, and hold your applause on this. The junior high car rider line is over. Officially. I promise you that it will be a lot more expeditious here at this high school. Because we have 2 drop-off points, and they're very simple. And again, directionally challenged, going towards College Station on 105. For our directional folks, you're going to be heading west on 105. Okay? Take a left on, I believe that's Old Dobbin Planters Road. I think Plantersville Road. Old Dobbin Plantersville Road. Take a left, and then you take the first right there at the auxiliary stadium, and follow that to the East Campus entrance, which is door 40. Correct me if I'm wrong. Door 40.
Great.
And that's your first drop-off point there. Your next one is the last entrance, which is student parking. That's where a lot of our students are going to pull in. You follow that all the way around until you can't, whenever you're facing the gym doors over here, and take a left, and you drop your student off on the right-hand side and just complete that loop around. All right, attendance. Very, very important. We can't teach your students, we can't help them grow educationally, professionally, personally, socially, if they aren't here. Additionally, there's laws that we have to stick by, and that our local judge is really creating more rigid standards for us to follow. So, and how that works is if you have 3 or more unexcused absences in a 4-week period. Unexcused means we haven't heard from you, we don't know where your child is. There hasn't been any communication with the school, or 10 times in a 6-month period. And again, these are undocumented absences. We have sent that attendance alert to the email that we have on file. We have not received a response. We haven't received any correspondence from parent, phone calls, etc. At that point, Judge Mack is asking that we file on those parents. There'll be a truancy officer that we have here in district, and that'll be turned over to the truancy officer at that point. So very important to keep keeping communication with the school as far as when your child is sick, whenever your child has a doctor's appointment, procedure going on, any type of incident that the student may have to be out of school for. Make sure you communicate that to us. Additionally, something that's different from the junior high whenever you transition to high school is the credits are based on a semester basis, meaning it's not cumulative for the year if you get credit or you pass. It's all based on credits for that course. So if you're here every single day in every single class, except for your second period class, because you have a lot of appointments for whatever reason, or we just got pulled out for whatever reason, we didn't document those absences, we won't get credit for that course. So that's why it's very important to make sure we're documenting those things, appointments, anything else in that nature. Just keep in mind that once you go past 8 absences in a single class, that does not count towards your credits in high school. In order to get through high school and graduate, we got to have those credits. So keep that in mind. Okay. And to that point, whenever your child needs to leave school early, please send them with a signed note with your name and phone number, and make sure they drop it off to the attendance office. Also, again, attendance@misd.org. You can send emails to that email address. You can also respond to the email that's sent to you when and if your child is reported as absent at school. Okay. All right, medication and medical needs. We do have an RN here on campus, and we also have 2 additional nurses assistants that are, one is located in Miss Webb's office, and the other one we have stationed on East Campus. Nurse Webb is going to be our primary nurse. That's your point of contact for any medication, medical needs, concerns, things of that nature. When and if you have a child who takes medication or has something that they take regularly, that cannot be in their possession. Okay, it's very important to remember this, because I've seen a lot of unfortunate situations unfold where a student had it in their possession and they had consequences that were assigned to them because at that point they were in possession of a controlled substance. So just keep that in mind. Be very mindful that any type of medication, any type of over-the-counter even medication, prescription, that has to go to the nurse, and you have to be the one to hand it off to the nurse. There's paperwork also that has to be completed with that. So make sure you be very vigilant if and when your child is taking any type of prescription medication or other medication. All right, this is an example of what our bell schedule looks like. First bell is at 7:15. And if you'll notice, both schedules start at 7:20 and they end at 2:40. The only thing that we do different on activity schedule, and this is for pep rallies, for guest speakers or events, anything of that nature, we adjust each class period approximately 5 minutes, give or take. And what that does is that gives us enough room on the back end of the day to have that celebration, have that pep rally, whatever it may be. But this is just an example of what the schedule is going to look like. And very importantly are these 3 end-of-course exams. You'll hear the term EOC, the acronym EOC. That's what that stands for, end-of-course testing. It's like the STAR test for junior high, but you have it at the end of each semester. Freshmen take Algebra 1, English 1, and Biology. Those are their EOCs.
And parents, we want to make sure that you understand up front, in order for your student to graduate, they're supposed to pass 5 EOCs. Okay? Again, in order for them to graduate, they need to pass 5 EOCs. They take 3 of them their 9th grade year, which is great because most of them are successful. They get those out of the way and they only have 2 left.
Yeah, you get those 3 done and your percentage is in your favor.
That's right. We only have 2 left, which would be English 2 and then U.S. History junior year. Okay, so I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about transition from junior high, grades, GPA, and all of those things. And we'll actually have a 9th grade resource guide that's going to be posted on the Counselor Corner website that has this information, but it's also in your packet. So the next few minutes you can kind of look at the handout because it may be hard to see some of my information. I have some charts and stuff. So we did include that in your folder for you to review. I wanted to make sure that even your students look at some of this information so they really understand that all grades aren't created equal, and that does make a difference when you get to high school and thinking about GPA. And what that means initially is just, you have major grades, daily grades, you have some quiz grades. Major grades may count 60% of that student's average, daily grades could count 30, quiz grades could count 10. It really is up to that course and how they make that up, their grade, how they differentiate that. So my example is a 60-40 for major and daily, but it's important for students to know that they are kind of counted differently and to really listen when they're with their teachers to see how that looks. I also included in that handout, this is a big deal, and this is definitely something I would like for you to visit with your student about, and I call it the Killer Zero. So we try to emphasize to them that from the very first assignment, it goes towards their GPA. And so any 0 that they get can really negatively affect their average in the class, their success, and all of those things. So I included this chart because it's kind of a visual representation of what that zero can really do and how much it can impact that overall grade, especially if they get a zero for a major grade and it's counting 60% of their overall average. So that's just definitely something that we encourage you to have that conversation with your student about. And Mr. Bess and I were talking to students earlier today, and he brought up a great point that if for some reason, because things happen, if for some reason they do get a zero, have that conversation with that teacher the very next day, turn that in. Partial credit is a lot better than no credit at all. So a 50 is a lot better than a zero. And so we do encourage them to have those conversations and try to keep up in that regard with their teachers. Mr. Best, you have anything on that?
No, just to piggyback on that, it's make sure, and we're going to have a slide here in just a second about gradebook. You can set alerts, and that's a great way for you to assist your child. We're growing them into responsible adults, but sometimes, we overlook things. And so that gradebook alert is huge in helping them with that, because then you can encourage them instead of saying, oh man, I whiffed on that, and I'm going to get a zero. Encourage them to go have a conversation with that teacher. Our teachers do not want our kids to fail. They want them to be successful. And more times than not, they're willing to work with them. So please encourage your student when and if, because life, like she said, life does happen. Things happen, we overlook things, we make mistakes. And that's what we're here for, is to help help them work through that. So just keep that in mind and encourage them to do so when and if that time comes up.
Okay, the next thing that you're going to see in your handout is talking about GPA. In the counselor's office, we end up fielding a lot of questions about GPA, and so I wanted to make sure to include this information for you and kind of give you an example of what that looks like. So we're on a 4.0 GPA scale. So if you look at a level class, if you're looking at that chart right now, and you look at a level class, and a student makes a 95 for the first semester in English 1, that 95 is going to calculate, when we calculate GPA, at a 3.5. So you're thinking, wait a minute, that's an A, that's a 4.0, right? That's kind of how we think, definitely at college level, that's how it works. An A is an A is an A. In high school, it doesn't work that way. So a 92 calculates different than a 95. That calculates different than a 97. Okay, so it's very important that a student knows that up front, and so that's why I included this chart. Again, it is on our website. If you have questions, we're always here to help navigate that. You can also see advanced classes do count a little bit higher. So instead of the 4.0 scale, they're on a 4.5 scale. So that 95 now looks a little bit different if you're in an advanced class than you're in a level class. All right, so you can look at the difference there and see that. But that's definitely something that, again, have that conversation with your students up front. Now understand, that's not about pressure or anything else, that's just an educational thing. We want them to understand how that works, but we don't want to stress them out, because obviously we do want to educate them and them to be the most successful they can, but we also want them to have that fine life balance. So we're good about supporting through that as well.
All right, success in class. If you have a teacher that has a remind, please join it. Teacher's not going to ask you to join it if they don't use it regularly. So they're using that as an accessible way to gain information about their class, have reminders, things of that nature. Also, accessing, you can go next one. Accessing the teacher websites in addition to that. Another great way to stay in contact with the teacher. You go to misd.org, go to the far right hand side and click on schools. The last school, whenever you get that drop down, is Montgomery High School. Once you get there, click on teachers, and then these tabs will come up. You click on the subject area that teacher instructs in, click on it, and then click on their name. So if you wanted to go to Kimberly Copeland's webpage, you would just drag over and click on that name, and then it should populate her webpage. Once you get there, you'll have access to their instructional calendar. And what that has is day-to-day instructional guidelines, or things that they're going to be completing, content that's going to be gone over that day, and more importantly, those points for quizzes and for tests. So we have more of a visual timeline for you as a parent if you want to keep up with that.
There's your grade book.
Gradebook. So again, to reiterate what I was talking about just a minute ago, Gradebook allows you to set alerts. If you want it to be a 70, a 75, 80, 85, you pick that number. Once your student's grade drops below that, you'll be alerted. You'll be sent an email, text message. I'm not sure how many things you can elect into, but it'll send you a message notifying you that their score has dropped below that. And again, it could be as simple as your student got a 95 on a test, and just because the teacher was, human error, typed it in backwards, typed in a 59. Well, now your student's failing. And if that teacher doesn't catch it, then that grade's going in, and obviously we can correct that. But if you have that alert as a parent, you can catch that and you can notify the teacher and get that taken care of. We do have a freshman remind, which I'm in charge of. It's going to be for mainly big school events, any type of reminder like tonight, informational nights, things of that nature. You won't hear from me too much. When you do, it's important. It is you need to text 81010 and at CO23MHS. That's class of 23 Montgomery High School. So text at CO23MHS, and you'll be included on all of those reminders.
Everybody got that before I click over? Pause. This. We're good. No? Okay. Pictures? Got it? Okay. All right, so students get involved. As parents, I know that you're doing this already, so I'm preaching to the choir, but there is a strong correlation between students that find something to get involved in. We call it get plugged in, specifically in my office. Usually I use that term a lot. But if they find something, a club, an organization, a sport, whatever it is, we have seen that there's a strong correlation between their happiness and their success. So their grades are better, their attendance is better, they're happier. So please encourage them to get plugged in somewhere, and you will see a lot of tables out there tonight of clubs and organizations. We have that out there for them to visit, to find out what's going on. There's a lot of opportunity in this building, guys. A lot of opportunity, great things that they can experience. So please encourage them to do that.
And you're going to see a lot of those opportunities once we go out.
That's right. Yep. All right. So again, I'm Dana Ellis, the 9th grade counselor and lead counselor. Here's my information, but it's also on our website, so you can access that at any time if you need something. And of course, Mr. Matt Bennis.
And guys, we're so happy to be here, happy to serve your students and the school and the community. It's a wonderful place. If you've been in the community, been in Montgomery ISD, you know how wonderful the school is. If you're new to the community, welcome, and we're confident that you're going to experience how great everything is here at Montgomery High School. It's a wonderful place with great teachers and wonderful people.
Before you move, I just got the 4-minute code, so we're going to stop. Evidently, now look, they were talking and they thought that we would be the ones that took longer.
I got a feeling that it took a little longer to get all those bodies into the
Oh,
gym.
you're giving them an excuse? Come on, you gotta be on my team.
That's it. Sorry.
All right, so evidently we finished a little bit faster than they did, so in about 4 minutes they'll be making their way. Does anybody have a question that's brave enough to ask it? Yeah, okay.
Don't tell us that we were that thorough, because we had to have missed something.
Here, I got one right up here, Mr. Best. The question is, how early can we drop them off in the morning?
Good question. Car rider line, you can drop them off. Those doors will be available for you to drop them off in there at 7 a.m.
Good question. 7 a.m. Any other questions? I loved it. I mean, we didn't say 5. Yes, ma'am, right here in the middle. I'm backing up for you. Yes, ma'am. Here we go. Anybody else have it? Yes, ma'am. Great question. Okay, she said, I haven't seen a supply list at all. You're not going to. What's going to happen is they're going to show up the first day of school, hopefully with a backpack. My recommendation is a 3-ring binder, some paper, maybe some dividers for 8 periods of their day, and something to write with. And then when they go to their classes, those teachers for those specific classes will let them know what additional supplies that they need. The other thing about high school, and I'm hoping again it won't happen as much with the freshmen, but there is still some schedule changing and moving the first few days. So you don't want to go out and buy something if you put in a schedule change request, because sometimes that doesn't work out exactly how you think it will. So that's another reason why you're not going to see a mass thing of supplies. But that's a great question.
And this wasn't a question or on the slide, but I know for a fact it's going to come up with someone's student, probably quite a few in this room, it's going to be their first time in a campus this large. And again, going from East Campus all the way to my office to West Campus, I'm a grown man, and it takes me about right at 4 minutes, 5 minutes, which is what they have to get there. We're not counting tardies the first 2 days. You don't need to advertise that to them. However, we're mindful of that, and we're mindful of that transition. But there's going to be some of them may come home and worry that they were late to class, etc. We give them that 2-day grace period, and then we start enforcing tardies that following week. Okay.
And I did. Wonderful teacher up here in the front row took care of me here a little bit, said that a lot of teachers also have their supply list posted right outside their room. So they may see that today when they go by as well. That may be helpful.